Yes, dual SH-101's. I was watching a video recently where a guy called Gerald was demonstrating how he would make his acid house tracks using two SH-101's and a TR-808. And so I thought I'd try and recreate that using two Tal Bassline 101 VSTs. One blue and the other one is red. And you can change the color of the Tal bassline by clicking in the upper left of the VST. But the key takeaway of this, the very unique thing about doing a bass line the way a guy called Gerald was doing it, is that the sequencer is not free running. It's being triggered along by his drum machine. And this means a bass line that never repeats. This means an interesting bass line. So it takes a certain setup of the two bass lines to work this way. And I'll show you how to do it. So for each instance of the bass line that you're using, you need to have a separate MIDI track that's going to have your clock signals in it. So for the first one, this is a MIDI track that I've labeled clock 1. And it has a clip that's playing the clock signals. And they should all be C3s wherever you choose to put your clock signals. They should all be on C3. It's because these are not note information. These are being used just to clock the sequencer forward. And you want to send the MIDI to the bass line and on MIDI channel 16. You want to select channel 16. And then on your bass line, to track where the VST is, you'll want to select MIDI from this MIDI track over here. I've renamed it clock 1. So here are a few trigs that I've put in this MIDI clip. And when I play it, you can see that the sequencer's just being triggered every time one of those clock messages goes off. You have to have your VST on hold, sync, and have the sequencer button on. And right here for your arpeggiator sequencer sync mode, you'll want to put it as MIDI clock. So when I play the track like with the pattern that Gerald had, and you see that the bass line never sounds the same twice because there are 7 triggers in there and there are 16 steps here. Now as far as the note values, you can either play them in using your keyboard or you can enter them in here using the plus and minus. So in this case, what these numbers mean here, since I put all C3 as my clock triggers, I said you wanted to use C3 as your clock trigger. Well, that's because these are differential values in here. So whatever note you have as your clock trigger, this would be the differential of it. So if you use all C3, it's very simple. Because I know that this is 3 semitones above C3, 3 semitones above C3, etc. Now Gerald, in his video, for his second SH-101, the track is not really that unusual. Every 16 beats, there's 16 notes, and it just repeats. So I've just put in 16 clocks here, and all Gerald was doing there is keeping his second SH-101 in sync by using the drum machine. But you wouldn't have to do that. So here's the pattern that Gerald was doing. And it just repeats. But there's ways you could make this a lot more interesting. For one thing, you could reduce the number of steps down to, say, 11. Then, even though there were 16 trigs going in, then it would never play the same thing twice. You'd get something like this. So you can see how that would be a lot more interesting. Now to that track, I have applied the free ozone imager So I've got the blue SH-101 occupying the center of the stereo field, and the red SH-101, I'm using this plug-in to increase the width.